Today, I'm going to walk you through the steps to be able to make your very own trap puller at home for pogo anchors, earth anchors, wolf fangs, any style of anchor, just about. An easy, compact, cheap way to make sure that you get your traps out of the ground. Let's start with the parts you're going to need to make this particular trap. I plan on making 2 out of this piece, so I've got some extra things. You can buy the size pipe that you need to just make one. Well, let's get into it. First, I've got a 6-foot piece of 1/2-inch black oxide pipe. I've got 2 1/2-inch by 5-inch black oxide nipples. No giggling. And we'll be using a 1/2-inch black oxide tee. For our hooks, I've got 2 5/16 by 18 J-hook bolts. We're also going to need a flat washer, some lock washers, and a couple extra 5/16 by 18 nuts. In addition to the parts for the trap puller itself, you're also going to need some tools to get this job done. You're going to need some sort of hacksaw or bandsaw to be able to cut your pipe. You're going to need a tape measure. I've got a file for cleaning up my edges after I cut the pipe in half. Clamp to hold my pipe to the trusty workbench, aka plastic table that we have to work on today. A couple of adjustable pliers for getting everything tightened down. I've got a 1/2-inch wrench and an adjustable wrench for working on the J-hooks. I have a hammer and a punch for marking the holes that I'll need to drill to be able to mount the J-hooks. And I've got my drill bit. I'm going slightly oversized. They're 5/16-inch hooks. I'm going with a 2164 drill bit. I will be working back inside using my drill press to make sure that I get these holes right, but you could absolutely use a hand drill if that's all you have available to get this job done. Let's get started on the build. The first thing that I want to do is measure out my pipe. This is marked at 72 inches, but you never quite know exactly where it's at. I know that splitting that in half would be 36 inches. So I'm going to start from one end and mark my 36-inch mark because I'm very particular. I'm also going to come from the other side and measure 36. It is just slightly off. So I'm going to go right in between those 2 marks. Now that we have the pipe marked, the next thing we need to do is get this cut in half. We've got the pipe cut in roughly 2 equal lengths. I'm going to go ahead and chamfer down the cut edges and make sure that we've got those smoothed out with our file. All right, we've got that all chamfered up, smoothed out, and ready to go with the rest of our build. We're going to start with the tee. You want your tee to have your legs to go against the ground to help give you support when you're pulling your trap. Now we've got our 5-inch legs or giggle nipples. If you'd like to get caps for these, you can. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't make much of a difference. To save $5, I decided to go cap free for this particular trick. Going to go to each side of the leg, get these tapered threads put in. All right, one, flip it around. And we're good. We have the basis of our trap puller already built. The legs are going to lay out across the ground for you, give you that leverage. So when you pry up, it doesn't dig down into the ground and helps pull that trap out. Based on what I found I like for my trap pullers and the fact that this is roughly 36 inches, now just slightly longer because of the tee, but I'm going to come up about 18 inches from the bottom and mark the hole for where I want my J-hook. That's going to give me pretty good leverage on the handle end still and still be able to pry up most of these anchors without having to readjust on the chain or the loop on the anchor to continue pulling. I have my 18 inches marked. Something that's important to keep in mind is When you're using this black oxide pipe, the measurements that you get are always going to be the inside diameter. So this is 1/2 inch pipe, but it's really 7/8 outside diameter. So don't just go in 1/4 inch. I actually need to go in about 7/16 to make sure that I've got my hole lined up right on that 18-inch mark. Now it's time for the hammer and the punch. You can step drill this thing, start with a small bit, but especially if you're using a hand drill and the ability for that bit to wobble all around, for safety, I love to have something to mark that initial hole and give my drill bit something to dig into. This is the one part I am going to step back into my garage and use my drill press since I have it handy and available. I want to use the best tools possible. You could use your hand drill, but one moment, I'm going to be right back and get this hole drilled. With the feet on my puller, I was able to go ahead and get the hole drilled center of the pipe and squared up with my feet. So the J-hook will sit in right in the center of the pipe, in line with the legs on the puller. With my J-hook, I want to make sure that I have room for the chain or the loop from the cable on my anchor. So I'm going to start with a nut on the bottom to give me the proper spacing. Then we'll use a flat washer. Getting those installed on the pipe, you can see I have a decent amount of room, and I can absolutely adjust the space that I have here between my J-hook and the end of the pipe. Now I want to put a lock washer on the top side of my pipe and cap it off with another nut. I'm going to use my 1/2 inch wrench to leverage against the J-hook and keep that in place while I tighten down the nut on the top next to the lock washer. Everything is tight, right, in line, and your trap puller is ready to go. That's as easy as it is to be able to make your own trap puller for your earth anchors, wolf fang anchors, or your pogo anchors. As simple as hooking the loop right over your hook, leveraging that anchor out. You can see I have enough space to pull it right out of the ground. I can do the same thing with my earth anchor. So I can loop the chain over, I can put it through the chain, pull that right up out of the ground. Now that you've seen how easy this is to do with parts from your local hardware store, it's time for you to get to work on your own DIY trap puller. Until next time, get outside and enjoy the great outdoors.